When's the last time you filled up your gas tank and didn't feel sick looking at the number on the pump? Because right now, today, the average American is paying over $4 a gallon for gas. Diesel just hit $5.62. And here's the part that nobody on TV is being straight with you about. It's not coming back down anytime soon. And this isn't about a hurricane. It's not about a pipeline shutdown. It's not about some random market fluctuation that's going to fix itself in 2 weeks. This is war. America is at war. And most people scrolling through their phones right now don't even fully understand what's happening, where it started, what's at stake, and most importantly, what it means for you, your family, your wallet, and this country right now. So that's exactly what we're breaking down today. The whole thing, from the beginning to where we're sitting right now, April 2026. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to understand this conflict better than most people in Washington want you to. Let's go. The United States and Israel launched a coordinated air war against Iran. They called it Operation Epic Fury. Airstrikes hit military installations across Iran. On the very first day of the war, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed, dead, the first day. Now you might be thinking, okay, that sounds like a win. We took out the head of the regime. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. Because here's what nobody prepared for. Iran didn't collapse. Iran didn't fold. Iran responded hard. And the response didn't just hit military targets. The response hit something that controls the economic heartbeat of the entire world, the Strait of Hormuz. Now look, if you don't know what the Strait of Hormuz is, I need you to understand this right now because this single waterway is the reason your gas is over $4. It's the reason your Amazon packages are showing new delivery fees. It's the reason your airline ticket for summer vacation just got more expensive. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow channel of water, about 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, sitting between Iran and Oman. Every single day, roughly 20% of the world's entire oil supply passes through that strait. 20%? Gone. Shut down. Iran closed it. And the second that happened, the global energy market went into a full-on panic. Let me give you the real numbers because I want you to feel this. Before the war started on February 28th, gas was averaging around $3 a gallon nationally. By the end of March, it crossed $4 for the first time since 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. That's a 30% jump in 1 month. Diesel prices, up almost 50%, sitting at $5.62 a gallon right now. And diesel matters to you, even if you don't drive a diesel truck. Because here's the deal. Almost every single piece of food you eat, every package that gets shipped to your door, every Amazon delivery, every grocery truck that pulls up to your local Walmart, it runs on diesel. When diesel goes up, everything goes up. Your groceries, your shipping costs, your moving company, your small business, everything. American consumers are already starting to feel their budgets squeezed beyond just gas prices, as energy costs have begun to pressure shipping, transportation, agriculture, and airline prices. CNBC, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Consumer prices rose 3.3% in March from a year earlier, up sharply from just 2.4% in February, the biggest yearly increase since May 2024. On a monthly basis, prices rose 0.9% in March from February alone, the largest such increase in nearly 4 years. WOUB Public Media, chief U.S. economist at Oxford Economics, said it plainly. It's painful in the near term. It's going to get more painful in April. WOUB Public Media. And this is hitting real Americans, real businesses, not just Wall Street. Nick Friedman, co-founder of a Tampa-based moving company with over 200 locations, says that historically, fuel took 3 to 5% of revenue as an expense, but since the war started, it's doubled to 6 to 10%. CNBC, he doesn't feel like he can raise prices on his customers, so he's absorbing the hit, and thousands of small business owners across this country are in the exact same position right now. Airlines, Southwest, United, Delta, JetBlue, all raising checked baggage fees by $10 per bag, citing rising operating costs from the war. CNN and the U.S. Postal Service, USPS implemented its first ever fuel surcharge, an 8% surcharge on packages, set to remain in place until at least January 2027. CNN, that's a war tax. That's what's happening. Every time you pay a new fee, every time you see a price that's higher than it was 6 months ago, that's the cost of this war landing in your pocket. Now let me take you through what's actually been happening militarily, because the story of this war is wild, and you need to know it. The US and Israel hit Iran hard from day one. They targeted military installations, nuclear infrastructure, missile capabilities, and senior leadership. At least 101 civilians have been killed in Iran since the start of the war, including 254 children, according to the US-based human rights activists' news agency. Time. Iran fired back. Missile and drone strikes against Israel. against U.S. military bases across the Middle East, against U.S. allied Gulf nations. Iran struck Saudi Aramco's vital Abqaiq processing facility, causing large plumes of thick black smoke to rise from the facility, CNN sending oil prices even higher. Iran also struck Qatar's Ras Laffan Industrial City LNG complex on March 18th, causing a 17% reduction in Qatar's LNG production capacity, with the damage estimated to require 3 to 5 years to fully repair. CNN and the Strait, that critical choke point, stayed closed. Hundreds of oil and product tankers ended up stranded in the Persian Gulf. Wikipedia, the head of the International Energy Agency, warned that the disruption already exceeds the combined oil crises of 1973 and 1979. Combined. Al Jazeera, let that sink in. This is the largest energy supply disruption in modern history. And in the middle of all of this, American servicemen and women were in harm's way. 2 U.S. service members were rescued after being shot down over Iran. Their F-15E Strike Eagle was downed on April 3rd. CNN, real Americans, real families waiting at home. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. And I mean geopolitically fascinating. Because if you've been watching the news, you know that just last week, this past Saturday and Sunday, the highest level direct talks between the United States and Iran since the 1979 Islamic Revolution took place. In person, face to face. And they happened in a city that most Americans couldn't have pointed to on a map before this war. Islamabad, Pakistan. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance led the American delegation. Iran sent Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and the Speaker of Parliament Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. Al Jazeera. The talks went on for more than 21 hours straight. People watching from outside the Serena Hotel in Islamabad said the lights stayed on well past midnight. Delegations kept going. Nobody walked out early. And then, Sunday morning, Vance came out and said it. No deal. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America, Vance told reporters Al Jazeera before boarding Air Force Two and heading back to Washington. So where does that leave us? Right now, today, April 13th, 2026, there's a fragile 2-week ceasefire in place between the U.S. and Iran. Trump says it's holding well. CNN. But here's the truth. Almost nothing has actually changed at the Strait of Hormuz. Shipping company executives say that uncertainty is still making transit through the strait too risky. CNN Iran is still technically in control of that waterway. And oil prices, while they dipped when the ceasefire was announced, are still way higher than before any of this started. Now here's what I really want to break down for you, because this is the part that should actually scare you if you're paying attention. What does Iran actually want? What does the U.S. actually want? And why couldn't these two sides reach a deal after 21 hours of talking? Here's the breakdown. The United States came to the table with a 15-point proposal. The big asks: significant curbs on Iran's military and nuclear capabilities, reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and restrictions on Iran's support for armed groups in the region. Time Trump has been crystal clear. No nuclear weapon. That's 99% of it, CNN said before the talks began. Iran? They came back with a 10-point counterproposal. They want an end to U.S.-Israeli attacks, security guarantees against future aggression, war reparations, and international recognition of Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Al Jazeera, sovereignty over the strait. That's Iran saying, we want legal control over the waterway that 20% of the world's oil passes through, permanently. You see why this is complicated? And then there's the Israel problem. Because while the U.S. and Iran were talking ceasefire, Israel was striking Lebanon and killing people. Israel killed more than 350 people in Lebanon the day after the ceasefire was announced. A third of those killed were women and children. Time. Iran said the ceasefire was supposed to include Lebanon. The U.S. and Israel said no, Lebanon is a separate conflict. Iranian Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, son of the slain Ayatollah, said Iran will bring management of the Strait of Hormuz into a new phase, and that Tehran remains determined to take revenge for his father and all those killed in the war. Al Jazeera. Trump, meanwhile, told Netanyahu to be a little more low-key CNN in Lebanon while peace talks were happening. But Netanyahu? He went to southern Lebanon himself, physically crossed into the territory, and said, Israel's war is not over. The battle is not yet over. Time, he told his people. This is the mess. America is trying to negotiate peace with Iran while its closest ally in the region is actively making that peace harder to achieve. Now look, I want to stop here and just talk to you straight for a second. There are people on both sides of the aisle who are going to give you very different takes on this war. Some will tell you Trump made the right call hitting Iran, that Iran was months away from a nuclear weapon, and this was necessary. Others will tell you this war was reckless, unilateral, and has cost American families at the pump without making the world safer. I'm not here to tell you which side is right. That's your call to make. But what I am telling you is, you deserve the facts. All of them. Not just the talking points that confirm what you already believe. Here's what we know for certain. The national average for gasoline has risen to $4.11 per gallon, up 38% since the conflict began. Diesel prices climbed to $5.62 per gallon, a 49% increase. Time 1/3 of the global supply of fertilizer travels through the Strait of Hormuz. Fuel costs account for between 40 and 50% of all variable costs of growing crops in countries like the United States. Center for American Progress. Grocery prices are going up. They just haven't hit fully yet, but they're coming. The cost of this war has already exceeded $200 billion. Wikipedia. And even if a peace deal is reached tomorrow, and that's a big if, analysts say consumers are unlikely to see sharp or immediate relief at the pump, even in the best-case scenario. Time One, senior oil market analyst, said we won't see oil back at pre-war levels, at least for the next year at the very least. Time. The war started, and even when it ends, its cost keeps going. So what happens next? What are the scenarios you need to watch for? Scenario 1. The ceasefire holds and both sides go back to the table. Pakistan has already said it remains ready to host more talks. Iran delivered its response to the U.S. through Pakistani intermediaries, rejecting a temporary ceasefire but listing their own 10-point demands. That's still dialogue. That's still a channel open. If Vance comes back, if Trump agrees to terms Iran can live with, if Netanyahu doesn't blow it up first, then maybe, we get a deal before this 2-week ceasefire expires. Scenario 2. The ceasefire collapses. Israel strikes Lebanon again, hard. Iran uses that as justification to walk away. Trump follows through on his threat of a full naval blockade of Iranian ports. CNN. The IRGC already warned that any military vessels approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be dealt with harshly and decisively. CNN oil goes above $100 a barrel. Goldman Sachs already predicted that at that level, gas prices in the U.S. push past $3.50 nationally, but right now we're already above $4. If this escalates, $5 a gallon nationally is not a fantasy, it's a possibility. And scenario 3, the slow grind, no deal, no full escalation, just ongoing uncertainty. Tankers afraid to move through the strait, oil supply tight, prices stay elevated for months. Americans keep getting squeezed, the midterms get closer, the political pressure builds. The Asian Development Bank already predicted that growth in the Asia-Pacific region will slow to 5.1% in 2026 due to the conflict in the Middle East and trade uncertainty. And regional inflation is expected to rise 3.6%. Wikipedia. This is not a regional problem anymore. This is a global economic problem. And America is right at the center of it. Here's the bigger picture I want to leave you with, the one that honestly keeps me thinking. America went into this war. America made the call. And right now, the cost of that call is showing up in real ways. At your gas pump, in your grocery store, in the fees tacked onto your next flight, in the surcharge on your next package delivery. The question that every American deserves to be asking their leaders right now is simple. What's the plan? Not the talking points, not the spin. The actual plan to end this, protect American lives, get the strait open, and bring those prices back down. Because right now, the talks in Pakistan failed. The ceasefire is fragile. Netanyahu is striking Lebanon. Iran is threatening to take revenge. Trump is threatening a naval blockade. And the economists are telling us, brace yourself. April's going to hurt more than March. This is the moment where informed Americans, people like you, who actually do the work to understand what's happening, matter more than ever. Because the decisions made in the next few weeks could determine what this country looks like economically for the next several years. Stay locked in. Watch what happens with the ceasefire. Watch whether Iran and the U.S. come back to the table. Watch whether Israel's operations in Lebanon become the thing that breaks the whole deal. Watch your gas prices, because they're a real-time indicator of how this war is going. And watch this channel, because we're going to keep tracking every major development as it happens, and break it down in plain English, the way you actually deserve to have it explained. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what's happening and why it matters for your life, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to understand this right now, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The story is not over. Not even close. Stay sharp. Stay informed.